Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 294 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one book review podcast in Canada. We're recording on April 26th, 2021. And I'm Andrew's sense of regret in selecting this month's book.
Gavin.
And
I don't have anything
Ian.
witty.
Oh, sorry, buddy. Anyways, I'm Ian, and I'm not talking about my spirit animal or Fight Club.
Oh, I guess I'll do the part that says Ian because it's normally my part. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Don't send us feedback on Fight Club because we're not talking about Fight Club.
All right, most flawless intro ever. Anyway, we need your help. To support Canadian Patriot Podcast, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Sure you're not a communist? Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
All right, that brings us to my favorite segment. It's where I ask Ian, what are you drinking?
Tonight, I am drinking jasmine tea and some atrazine-free granite-filtered well water. And there is a reason for that. I have to release my inner penguin tonight because I'm taking my daughter for driving lessons tonight. So
Oh boy.
I'm anticipating some high emotions, some needless tears, maybe some immature commentary, and that's just from my end.
Yeah.
Well,
So you
Or
can
it
imagine
would be so much worse. Yeah.
I wish her luck, and also, good luck.
Is
I
it
wish
stick?
you luck too, Ian.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. I think stick is, like you said, the millennials anti-theft device, but we were doing it automatic with a little Volvo. So
There you go.
Oh, a sensible car.
yeah.
Yes. Except
Right
for all
on.
that pollution.
Well, I'm definitely not attached to it. So I figure it's like disposable. So
Perfect.
anyway.
Well, I need to reconsider my career choice because I don't have vehicles that I consider disposable. Oh,
Well, it has 400,000 kilometers on it, so it's
okay. You're just waiting for it to stop. I see.
it's definitely at this point it's disposable. So
All right. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Signal Hill and Pepsi.
I am also drinking atrazine-free water, although mine was not filtered through granite. Mine's just filtered through a Berkey because I'm still trying to get hydrated after this weekend's adventures. So let's do Patriot Challenge reminder. This was a good weekend for you to get out and have done it. So fingers crossed. Exercise for 45 minutes or 4 hours and 45 minutes, whichever. Practice a skill for 10 minutes. Read a book for 15 minutes. Conveniently, book club is on the last Monday of every month. And we have the next 2 months worth of books ready to announce. Drink 2 liters of water, or more if you're me, and complete one task to improve your life. And if you're not banned from social media, go grab the template, share it with your friends and or enemies.
Yeah. And one of the tasks to improve your life could be not reading Fight Club. But you only get to use that once, not every day. Just once.
Just once. Section 74 challenges are ongoing if you want to get involved or donate some money. Links are in the show notes. The email is s74process@gmail.com. And before we do book club, we're going to, unlike other podcasts, some podcasts do, what did we do in guns this week? Other podcasts do, what did we do in prepping this week? Some podcasts are just, what did we do in prepping today? And it's a whole hour, Ian.
Yeah. This morning,
We're doing what did we do in the I'm gonna lump it in with the Patriot Challenge. What did we do in self-improvement recently?
and or
Gavin
walking
and I
in a
went for a
straight line
hike.
for a long time.
Yeah, it's not nearly as homoerotic as it sounds.
Yeah,
We made sure the line was very straight.
very straight.
So Vera Streleka put on their second remote military march. They did one last year. They did another one this year. We went for a ruck march. It was great. I could kind of walk today.
Yeah. I mean, I've been kind of building up to this for the last month, as I'm sure we all are. And like, I'm really not bad. Like with the whole like getting out frequently and working out and exercising and stretching every day because I'm old and broken. Like the joints and everything feel great. The only problem is the wicked, massive, entire foot-size blister I have on my left foot.
So you got a wicked bad blister. Like yours is really bad, like your whole foot bad.
Well, at least like the front part of my foot bad. Yeah, pretty
Were,
gnarly.
were they new boots or were they stuff that were broken in?
No, it broken in and like I'd gone out in the socks that I'd worn a bunch of times and done like 5K in them and worn them all day with nothing. And like I even in advance bought like moleskin type stuff like so that I had it, but then like checked the shoes, did everything, and like everything was fine. And even at the halfway point, I could kind of feel something small. So I took my shoe off, took my sock off, readjusted everything, and then like on the back half of it, it just like exploded. But whatever, I'll be fine in another day or two. And
Yeah,
drained it,
my
keeping it
complaint
dry.
is similar. I have also gotten a pretty decent blister on my left foot.
Yeah, same.
And I have a theory about this. I have a theory about this. So we got together with a couple of people, social distance exercise. We went from one of our local gun clubs where we could safely park all of our vehicles at a socially respectable distance.
Yes.
And we walked down the road for 12 and a half kilometers. And then we turned around and walked back to the gun club.
We
So
did, however, take a very
25K.
brief pause to
Well, the
cram some
briefest of
food.
pauses.
Yeah, people
Ah.
peed. Some guys shotgunned a beer. I crammed food in my mouth and adjusted my shoe.
Yeah.
And then we turned around and walked back.
So the choices for the remote military march, the way Verstrelake has set this up, over the course of a weekend, 3 different divisions, 2 different distance choices, 25 or 50 kilometers. And their instructions were the route was up to you, but it should include paved and unpaved roads and avoid crowds. Okay, fair enough. My theory about why we have blisters on our left feet.
The curvature of the road.
Curve of the road that we were walking on because we walked down a county highway and occasionally walked on the shoulder. And where there was no shoulder, we walked on the asphalt. And it's got that solid like 6-degree slope to the left.
Yeah, so the water runs off. Yeah.
So I have a suspicion that that's why we have that.
Yeah. Because, yeah, it's definitely my left foot.
Yeah, the forestry roads that I would have probably done this one on if I had known about it was they're even more heavily curved, so you do want to stick right to the middle of them for sure.
Yeah, we definitely walked to the middle of the road for a lot, but for some reason there was a lot of traffic out, despite there being a lockdown in our province.
Even had
So
2
weird.
friends of ours drive by.
Yeah, which was weird because I'm like, isn't that so and so? And then somebody else drove by and he stopped and it was like that was he was going to see the other guy. That was like, okay, well, I guess everybody's out for lockdown day.
Yeah. Yeah, at the place that they're not supposed to be. Good times. Good times.
Good times.
These are my people.
So there were 3 different divisions: open, military, and recon. Open, your choice of clothing and shoes, 10-kilogram rucksack. Military, combat uniform, boots that cover your ankles, 10-kilogram rucksack. Recon, same as military, but also sleep outside overnight and do the distance both days.
Yeah, so like
Do
25K
or 50, camp overnight,
sleep.
25 or 50, come back.
Which
We
I
did
mean,
not do recon division.
but that like I mean that could be fun if we could find the right spot.
I think absolutely. Like I'd just head out behind the house there and just go crazy because at least you'd be able to go armed and everything.
Yeah,
It's bear season. So
I mean it was kind of like like everyone's got like their fatigues on and their combat uniforms and plate carriers and various military styled backpacks walking down the road in a single file line, and the cars coming were kind of funny because you get like the weirdest looks. Luckily, nobody called the cops on us. So.
Yeah, very fortunate we didn't get accused of having a anti-COVID gathering type of event going on.
probably just assumed you're military doing a military march and left you alone.
Yeah,
We weren't,
or we
nearly
were
armed
out,
enough.
doing, peaceful non-compliance and civil disobedience
No,
as
no,
per our
essential
right in the charter.
exercise.
Yeah.
The essential exercise. It's a good time though. I think that I need to figure out why I got a weird blister this time around.
I
Because I mean,
think my thoughts were exactly the same as yours, and it's
yeah,
probably like the sliding sideways in the shoe constantly because like it's definitely
yeah,
like the blister on my foot is like it's smeared into that direction because it was that gnarly. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
did it.
well, especially since both of you got the same one, I could see it's definitely the slope of the road. But if one of you got it, it might just be like the stride pattern. Like instead of walking feet forward, it might be like somebody's got like a duck foot on one side or something.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
that's why I was thinking it's the
the
I'm
grade.
it's
thinking
the
it's
angle
the
of the dangle.
yeah.
Because my normal route is 13 kilometers, and it's mostly sidewalk and some unpaved trails. So it's like not any
Yeah,
issue,
it's
and I don't
flat.
normally get blisters.
Yeah,
Same as Gavin, broken in boots that I wear all the time and socks that I know are good for this. So it's it was
yeah,
10 kilometers longer than normal. Some people might even call it almost twice as long as normal, but
yeah. I'd still do it again.
I'd do it again. It was a good time. Good group
Yeah,
of people.
yeah. Maybe we just
Several
find a
of our
better route.
friends were there. Well, and that maybe part of it was like we don't want to run into a lot of people. We don't want to have problems on like
Yeah,
ostensibly public land. Like we've gone hiking on other uh managed forest type properties that are just not there isn't the
yeah,
space. The trails around here are just not long enough.
yeah. You'd have to do it like 5 times rather than just yeah. So I mean, for what we needed, it worked out well. But like for next year or when we plan to do this again in a few months after all of our feet heal,
Downtown Ottawa.
we pick a better route.
Well, I think because everything's a contest, according to some other podcasters from other podcasts, I think we should try and like set it out to the first focal plane guys, everything else, and see if anybody else wants to join
Yeah,
us on this, and maybe we'll all plan to do something.
yeah. No, I mean, all things considered, like, and you know, I wasn't pushing myself, but I managed to maintain my average pace over the entire thing, and that includes like having to slow down and like wait for a couple of stragglers. I mean,
Yeah, all right. Well, let's get your humble brag out of the way. What was your final time?
my final time was 4 hours 59 minutes for just under 26 kilometers. Like from when I sort of started timing it to when I caught the recording.
And
Right.
you didn't stop the crony for the break time or for chugging the beer
No,
or anything else. Okay.
no. So like I mean, we ballparked in advance 5 hours for this,
Yeah, we
and
budgeted for 5 hours and expected to do 12-minute kilometers, and
yeah,
is basically where it ended up. Uh, Dave, who is bailing because Dave doesn't read books, and younger Andrew, who is on daddy duty and is bailing on Fight Club, were basically keeping up with me the whole time, although I heard no end of complaints about it because why did we keep going faster? And they're not here
yeah,
to defend themselves. So we did it in 4 hours and 45 minutes.
yeah,
And same distance as Gavin, although I think my start and stop point, because I
yeah.
did it at the entrance to the gun club driveway was
Well, that's where I
my
started timing, but then it just like I just caught the end one at the car when I put
yeah.
my shit down.
The gun club driveway is not inconsequential.
It's a couple 100 meters, yeah.
I just didn't
Um,
want to like have that recorded and put it on Strava exactly where we parked all of the cars.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it was basically bang on at 25. I was 4 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. So like, and then it was just like that last little bit to get to the car took a little
Yep.
bit longer because it was like, oh, I guess we went a little bit longer than 12 and a half kilometers in one direction. So now I'm exactly at 25.
Just a touch. Well,
Yeah.
so younger Andrew and I were having a disagreement about how GPSs work because he was telling me I was off by a kilometer and I was telling him he was wrong. Turns out I was correct.
Per SOP.
Yeah, well, in order to make sure that we didn't short anybody, we split the difference and went an extra 500 meters. So
Now, what about elevation changes? Pretty flat, or I don't know what the terrain's like over there.
Oh,
flat-ish. It's like southern Ontario, not far from the escarpment. So there's some hills, They're not big hills.
There's only one that really
It's
sucks.
steep.
And unfortunately, it's the one that's right at the beginning, but because we literally turned around and did, you know, the reverse, it also sucked right at the end. Um,
So I think the total thing I think was about 100 meters of elevation change.
yeah, something like I can tell you. Hold on, let me get the.
Yeah, you've probably got it on your fancy GPS. I think it was about 100 meters of elevation change, but it was mostly gentle. There was a couple of hills, but there was one really
So
particularly steep hill.
yeah, my fancy elevation thingy on my phone died halfway, and I haven't pulled the data off the other GPS, but it was 67 meters of elevation gain one way,
Yeah, so it'd be same thing going the other way.
more or less. Because I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of just like it's this, right? Like it's I'd say it'd be a little bit more because the big hill going up would have added a few more meters, but yeah, somewhere around 100 to 120.
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't like walking up a mountain, but
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, everyone, wow, everybody but one completed it. That's why, like, I slowed down. A buddy of mine came out, and I guess he bit off more than he could chew. He's got a bad knee, and he got to the halfway, and then maybe about part way through the second leg, and his knee kind of gave out and everything. And fortunately, another friend of ours came by and had the pickup truck and was the Kazovac that was much needed at that point. And then
Nobody carried a
Rather-
stretcher?
no, we
No.
just saw him in the passenger seat, and then
no, the safety briefing was something like, if you die, I'll come pick you up on my way home.
yeah. So like, fortunately, yeah, right at the right moment in time, Kazovac showed up, plus or minus 30 seconds, and then yeah, I picked up the pace and managed to catch up to Benny, who was in the lead group, and then sort of struggled a little bit, but to everyone's credit, they did a good job.
Yeah, it was a good time. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
I think we maybe
Need-
look for
need a better
different
route.
location.
Yeah.
Did anybody go in cold, or does everybody kind of train ahead of time?
Some of the people, I guess, went in kind of cold. I mean, although we're all kind of like half-ass training, but not really. Looking at
Yeah, I
you,
mean,
Dave
like-
and Benny.
Well, okay. To Dave's credit, Dave had been training hard, and then Dave stopped.
Yeah.
He was logging a lot of rock miles, and then got busy.
Yeah.
So it was good. I'd do it again. Book club.
Yeah.
Book club.
Fight Club
book that
sucks.
we don't talk
end
about.
end of book.
Yeah, my I'm Andrew's deflated sense of wanting to read this book.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about it before the show started. I mean, it's one of those rare occasions that the movie was actually probably better done than the book.
Yeah.
I think the movie was easier to follow, certainly, and not the book is not to the point because there's not a lot of extra in the book. It's not a very long book either. It's only like 200 pages, and it's
Yeah.
like
It's easy
not
to read.
small font. It's a very easy read. It's not a I think technically difficult book.
Yeah,
and
it's not Jordan
written
Peterson,
at a very
or
high
like-
level. Like it's a very approachable book. It's very readable, but I think it's harder to follow than the film.
Yeah. There's a lot of jumping back and forth that is done a lot easier visually when you see, Edward Norton speaking and then you see Brad Pitt speaking. It's easier to do the thing. But when it jumps back and forth in the book and everything, it's just like, ugh.
Well, I guess like obvious spoiler alerts. We're going to talk about the book and the movie, so I don't know how you're an adult male in North America having never seen Fight Club, but I guess it could happen because
Yeah. If so, pause this. Watch
like
the
university,
movie.
right?
Yeah.
They're always 19 in their first year of university. So I mean, like somebody could have not seen Fight Club yet.
And as I
guess.
get older, they stay the same age. Is
They
that
stay
how
the
that
same.
quote-
Exactly. That's exactly that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was not a bad book. It was not the book that I was expecting it to be based on having seen the film. The film, I
Yeah.
think, was a superior product.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess
Part of that is the visual element of storytelling.
because
part of it, I
the
think-
two people are the same person. Let's just get that out of the way so we don't have to like.
Well,
Yeah,
and can we
spoiler
talk about
alert's
the two
already
people
there,
thing?
but like, yeah,
Because I get to like chapter 11 or 12, and I'm like, what the is the narrator's name? Is it who is this guy? Because in the book, I thought in the film, I thought his name was Jack. Because when Edward Norton is narrating the film, he talks about Jack's whatever
yeah.
character traits, right?
I
And in the
see.
book, it's out of, and I don't know if this is something I missed in the movie because I don't remember or whatever, but in the book, they explain that he was reading a copy of a magazine. It wasn't National Geographic. It was Reader's Digest, maybe.
No, so what it was is actually his name is not Jack. He's never named in either the book or the movie.
I know, but in the book, the guy from the magazine with the
Yeah,
organ that's being described is Joe's liver, Joe's eyes, Joe's testicles, what have you.
yeah. So it's the same thing in the movie. He's just reading. Basically, some guys like some I don't know hipster was doing like articles, and
Right.
he was reading the articles out loud. So but he kind of latched onto the idea of describing like I'm Jack's complete lack of surprise, and the guy's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's because he didn't give the reference, and
Right.
yeah, so it's just. It was kind of messed up to begin with, but yeah, I think the reason the movie got so famous is because that whole like, coming out the fact that it's the same guy. It was just like this big reveal. Whereas in the book, was anybody surprised?
I mean,
I don't think you can get to like chapter whatever that was, chapter like 18 out of 20, and not have seen that coming by. Like if you didn't have it figured out halfway through the book, I don't know what you were reading.
yeah. I mean, I guess when we were chatting in the pre-show, I was like, maybe it's because I've seen the movie and I know, but like that first scene where like, or at least the first whatever you call it when it's a book because it's not a scene, but like that part of the book where like he brought home Marla or whatever her name was and like banged her and they're in the kitchen having a conversation and it's like she leaves the room, then all of a sudden like Tyler Durden comes in the room. It's like it's so friggin' obvious.
I don't know if that was the point where I figured it was super obvious in the book. Trying to like read the book as though you had not seen the film. I don't
It's
know if that
hard.
was exactly the point where I would have figured it out, but I think by the time that they were recruiting for Project Mayhem, if you hadn't figured out what was going on, then yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of dense. I mean, it's not like the whole like Sixth Sense thing where it's like it blows your mind. You're like, oh my God, Bruce Willis is dead. Like, yeah, it was definitely not a M. Night, however you pronounce his last name, plot twist for Fight Club. It was like, yeah, that was pretty obvious like 6 chapters ago, bud.
Yeah, we got it. Oh, some of the other
Crazy.
stuff, some of the storytelling in it is interesting. Some of the like they go into the not always accurate technical details of things.
Building a suppressor.
Building a suppressor, for example, you do not actually just drill holes in the barrel of your pistol.
No, that's called pouring the barrel. It's a thing you can do.
But it won't make it quieter.
No, and it probably won't make it blow up either unless you do a
I'm
really
also
bad
not
job at
actually-
drilling the barrel.
I'm not also sure if I could actually make soap from human fat the way that they were trying to do it. I think that you can make soap from fat. I have no idea if it's
Yeah.
technically accurate or not.
Well, as long as you render it, you can make it from any kind of fat.
Well, all
Yeah.
right. I'll take it.
I guess we'll have to try.
I mean, okay.
Start with
Call
bacon.
Marla's
Take it
mom?
from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bacon soap works for me.
I mean, I'd get some bacon soap.
I think we know a guy that's going to have some beef and pork bacon fat soon. Might need to do a trip to Quebec though.
Oh, I don't know if I want to go to Quebec, but I don't know. Some of the other parts that were interesting were the wouldn't be cinematography because that would be the filming of it. Was the more of the projectionist side of the projecting of films. Some of that was, I think, technically interesting, but I have no idea how accurate it was.
I think at one point in time it was accurate because, like, if you watch old movies, they definitely do have what they called in the book the cigarette burns. So, like,
Yeah,
they
and I
did
think-
have to switch reels over and do all of that stuff. Nowadays, it's all digital.
Yeah, I think back in the day, projectors actually got paid good money to do a good job of it, and now it's like, yeah, somebody just presses play.
I mean, I remember a
Push
couple of
play.
years ago, I mean, it's probably all computerized, and there isn't even a projectionist, but like a couple of years ago, the local drive-in near me actually had a picket out front of the local projectionist union. So like,
It's like 3 old dudes in Elks hats, or
pretty much, yeah. But like, so yeah, like at one point in time when like going to the cinema was a thing, right? And there was some prestige to it. I think a projectionist was a career type job because there was some skill involved in like putting the film in, matching like the sound up to the thing and all of the things and not setting the film on fire because like film was very expensive and the way that they had to go about getting movies and stuff like that into the thing was expensive, so you had to be very careful with them. But nowadays they've changed the game altogether.
I don't know. I thought it was technically interesting discussion of like the finer points of how to steal frames of nudies out of
Yeah.
old films and how to do real changes. It was interesting.
Hmm.
No idea if it was accurate or not, but it was entertaining.
I'm sure it was because like people stealing, frames from movies of, naked starlets has got to be a thing because people are degenerate.
Well, I think that is one of those takeaways from the book. Is I think that like I'm having a hard time with what the book was actually about, but it might just be that people are degenerate.
I think that's probably about the most accurate description of the book is that there are people out there that have really weird mental problems and they are degenerate as fuck. And that if you're charismatic enough, people will follow you, however retarded your idea is.
well, name me one like psychotic leader in the past that wasn't like, what do you say, charming, or I guess I don't know how to describe it. Like he's really well spoken and really, like charming and everything else at some point in order to get the followers, right? Until they told him to drink the Kool-Aid at the end, or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, usually they have some sort of a personality that's attractive to people. But I think this book also was just about the fact that it's the perspective of crazy man that he sees as normal. Everybody else would see it as a complete flake, such as like during the movie there when, he's like, Tyler's not here. And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, I'm telling you, he's not here right now. Like, go away. And she's like, you're freaking nuts. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Like, he just thinks that she's being the psycho because from his perspective, he's normal.
At this point, he has no idea that they are the same person.
Yeah.
Well, I think up to probably midway through the book, about the halfway point, he's a very relatable everyman character. Whoever the narrator is, the Tyler Durden's alter ego, Jack's
Jack,
self-inflated
Joe,
sense of self, whatever is,
whoever
yeah,
he
whatever,
is,
whoever the main character is, he's very like he has a boring middle kind of class job. He's not an insurance actuary, but he like works for a car company and like recalls and safety or something, standards and safety, whatever it is.
Yeah, he's the bean counter that decides whether it's cheaper for them to do a recall or cheaper for them to pay people out and not fix the problem.
And he's got a shitty boss that he doesn't get along with, and they don't like the people that work above him don't understand what he does, and he produces reports that nobody really cares about. But it's a very relatable middle class kind of job, right? Like nobody really knows what you do or how you do it. You're just sort of you show up and you don't like your boss and you don't like your coworkers, and then you go
and
home
it's a
and you do
bunch
something
of
else.
And it's a bunch of stupid traveling, so you're like stuck in airports and doing all of that stupid nonsense and like it's not glamorous,
Well,
it's
and
just
I think
pain in the ass work, right? Like
they describe it as like a single serve lifestyle, individual shampoo, individual piece of soap, individual prepackaged meal for one. Like it's all it's very anti-consumer culture. Not individualism necessarily, because it's not like he doesn't set out to be by himself, but he just sort of like he's a loner, middle class, probably close to middle age. Like reading the book, you get the impression like he's in his 30s, maybe he's pushing 40. His life's not really going anywhere.
I resemble those things.
Well, yeah, but you don't get the single serve soaps.
True. Although I do steal them when I go to hotels because it's not stealing because I've paid for them.
Yeah,
And
you've
they
paid
come
for
in
them.
handy. They come in
Use
handy
them
when you're
later.
traveling and you want to be cheap when you're living alone.
Yeah, no, I
Otherwise,
get that.
but
Just like
like,
We're all
it's
guilty of that.
yeah.
the
Dude, I
single
had
sort
like
of
a year
lifestyle
supply. It was
thing is
awesome. But yeah, it's the everything that goes along with it. Like it's just
well, and the description of his apartment, like he goes through the IKEA catalog and he picks out newer and better
yeah,
furniture, and
yeah.
but he never has people over and he doesn't really have any friends, and his way of
Oh,
passing
yeah.
the time is going to all of these like call it
Well,
emotional support groups for various diseases
that he doesn't have.
that he doesn't have. No, which
Yeah.
is also how he meets the I hesitate to say love interest,
Yeah, but I
Marla
guess that's
Singer's
how he,
character.
like he's not in the office enough to develop any sort of meaningful relationship with the people that he works with. He's also on the road too much to develop any meaningful relationship with anybody outside of work. Or when he travels, he's not like in the same place all the time, so can't like have a girlfriend in Chicago or wherever else he's going, right? Like, so it's like he's not in any one spot for long enough to really develop any relationship, and like, he just sounds like like a really kind of boring, dull, average Joe or Jack or whatever his name is. That like he's not dumb, but he's not intelligent.
No, he's sort of an everyman kind of character. He has no
Yeah,
real personality because he's
yeah, but he's got
picking
no
out new
drive
furniture from
either, right?
IKEA.
Yeah, he's got no drive either, though, right?
He
He doesn't.
probably doesn't go for ruck marches until he meets Tyler.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like Chuck got his inspiration from an airline pilot or something.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's completely out of the question. It's a very relatable middle class
Yeah.
kind of a guy.
Yeah. And then he just kind of goes crazy, and
Well, goes crazy or
yeah, it's
was
just
crazy.
the crazy just surfaced, I guess, because he snapped. Yeah.
Yeah, but what would you
Yeah.
call the point of snapping? I mean, he was clearly always crazy.
Well, I
Pretty
mean, I
much
guess
from the start.
attending support
Well,
groups for like colon cancer and all the other weird things just so you can feel better about your life because you don't have the disease.
was he doing it to feel better about his life, or was he trying to like come up with a sense of community because of the lack of actual meaningful relationships?
Probably both.
Right? Like, well, I mean, maybe. I looked at it as that he was
It
trying to
was like
fill a void.
yeah, it's like the one constant in his life that he can go there and talk to Bob and see how shitty Bob's life is and be like, well, at least I got that new couch for IKEA coming on Friday.
Yeah, I could see that. There's a comparison to other people that have it worse. I could see that.
But also, like, at least there's people that know my name or my fake name because you don't really know what he gives them or anything, right? Like, but there's, yeah, he's
Well,
getting some companionship and familiarity out of it.
assume that it's a fake name because like it's a support group. So I would imagine you introduce yourself like what I understand AA is like. Hi, my name is Bob, and it's been
Yeah.
2 days since I had bitch tits or whatever.
Yeah. Poor meatloaf.
Read the book. It'll be funnier
Yeah.
if you've read the book.
Yeah.
They
could not have cast that role any better, though, in the film.
Yeah, in the film
Brilliant.
it was well. I have very few complaints about the film. I have more complaints about the book. I actually my probably my biggest complaint about the book is that the quote that I really wanted from the movie is not actually in the book. They dance around it like 4 times, but I'm like, oh, they're finally going to give me the quote that I want for the podcast, and they never do.
Well, that's probably what it was. Is like the writer of the screenplay was like, I've been tasked with writing this thing, and this is a terrible friggin' movie. And he keeps almost saying the thing that I want him to say. I'm gonna just paraphrase and steal from this part and that part and just put it all together.
Well, I'll read the part from the film script. It's Durden narrating, or I guess addressing a crowd, but which means a lot of you have been breaking the first 2 rules of Fight Club. Man, I see in Fight Club the strongest and smartest men who have ever lived. I see all this potential and I see it squandered. God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. We've all been raised by television to believe that one day we'll all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. And we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off.
I wonder if the guy that wrote the screenplay has read Uncle Ted.
Well, that was kind of like not why I wanted the quote, but it's like in that vein. It's like, and they talk about this in the book. There's a couple of quotes. It's like we buy shit our grandparents never imagined,
Yeah.
never mind needed stuff that they didn't even think would exist.
Yeah, I mean, and there's definitely some anti-consumerism and stuff like that, and the whole like premise of like using people's like liposuction fat and turning it into like boutique designer soap and selling it to the fanciest of fancy places, and they literally just like wrap it in a piece of paper, and it's like, here is your,
Your very fancy soap.
yeah, for ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, it kind of plays into that whole like these idiots, like this is human fat, like this is disgusting, but here you are thinking it's the best of the best.
Well, they're kind of getting it over on consumerism, and it's very much like you see it in the quote from the film with the, I don't want to say middle class jobs, but it's sort of like the lower end service jobs, pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars, because they talk about that through the book. Like, um, Tyler being a projectionist, right? He's works at movie theaters, and they have jobs as waiters in some fancy hotel downtown, and they, pee in the soup, not pea soup. They urinate in the soup.
Yeah, I believe he even burned his penis on it one time.
Yeah, yes. It's a very
Oh
vivid
yeah.
description.
If you're gonna pee in soup at a fancy place, don't actually stick your dick into it. That's dangerous.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
But it's highly relatable because everybody's had those service jobs, right? Like everybody's done catering or fast food or pumped gas or like it's all very relatable that these people all have, I don't want to say boring lives because that's like an unfair generalization, but that's what they're trying to get at through like, yeah, it's all highly relatable and you're all easily replaced and you all have pretty meaningless lives.
I think maybe it's not that their lives as a whole, maybe not, but their work life is very mundane is maybe the way to put it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But it makes them highly relatable, right?
Yeah. It's the same old with no real anything, like no real job satisfaction from doing your job, doing it well. It's just oh, I've got to serve soup to some other rich asshole. I may as well pee in it so that at least I get a chuckle when I see them eating it.
Yeah, it'll be a little funny joke for me and my friends.
Yeah.
I think there's also like some weird spiritual stuff going on in the book. Again, I think this goes back to like the idea that, or at least the thing that I'm taking from it is that the narrator character is looking for a sense of community. That's why he goes to the support groups. That's why he starts Project Mayhem, right? That's why his alter ego starts Project Mayhem, and that's why they recruit people to go to Fight Club, is they want to have some sense of purpose greater than themselves, more than pumping gas and waiting tables and peeing in the soup.
Yeah, they want to, and relate to other book clubs we've done, an us and a them. He doesn't have the us, so he's trying to build the us by doing stupid things, but at least he does manage to, at least on some level, build a community of like-minded crazy people.
No, and even if it's just to do the Fight Club aspect of Fight Club, because that makes an us and them, and you see that throughout the book. You walk into a bar and you see two guys with black eyes, and you nod at them. You don't go up to them, you don't say anything, but like they go to Fight Club.
Yeah.
Right? You pass some guy in the line at the coffee shop and like he's missing a tooth, and he goes to Fight Club. He's an okay guy.
Yeah, it's like when you're in Vegas at SHOT Show and you see someone else wearing 511s. You just give him the nod.
That's right. The very knowing nod.
Yeah.
I think there is part of that is, I think, a sense of spiritualism or a lack of spiritual community or connection. Part of it is just like the lack of actual community. And you see that at a couple of points. At one point, Tyler's talking about what their plans are, and he says, I'm breaking my attachment to physical power and possessions, Tyler whispered, because only through destroying myself can I discover the greater power of my spirit. Right? It's the IKEA shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe getting punched in the face doesn't matter either, but
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people that use the whole like break it down to rebuild it better, stronger, faster, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the military does it, a bunch of other people do it. The government's trying to break our spirit right now, but not to rebuild us better. But like lots of groups, organizations, et cetera, will break down the individual to build it back stronger. So it's like a thing that people do to themselves or to one another and so on and so forth. So I mean that makes it relatable as well, right?
yeah, I can see that.
I mean, we do stupid shit like go on 25-kilometer rucks to break ourselves down, especially our left
To
foot, in
prove
order
we
to,
can.
yeah,
Well, I think you need part of that. And they're like the concept of Fight Club is the same thing as like it's the same idea as what we're doing with going for a ruck march, right? Like it's a physical task. And okay, Fight Club, you're getting punched in the face and it's another guy. But
yeah,
physical endeavors as men is an important thing of like, and I think the other part with this is in like the late 90s this comes out, right? Like 1997 or something,
yeah.
1995. This is before the manosphere blogs on the internet and red pills and all of the podcasts that we have now about all of these people that are trying to figure out what it is to be a man. And I don't think that Chuck, the author of the novels, was like trying to describe
Not
what it is to be a
consciously,
man or
yeah.
like how to be a good man, but to have that sense of community and to have some sort of a trial of yourself, in this case at the hands of someone else, like literally getting your ass kicked.
Well, and I think this plays into like, Jack Donovan's idea of like the male group and like jockeying for position and all of that, but it's all done in a healthy way. I mean, maybe like beating the shit out of one another isn't healthy, but like it's that same thing where it's like
Well,
at
I
the
don't
end
know.
of it, they're all friends and they shake hands and hug each other and like it's not a personal thing, it's just a I'm going to physically test myself against you and you're going to do the same. And at the end of it, we'll respect one another. And
Well,
like that may change our position in the group, but we still respect that because you've earned it or I've earned it.
Well,
but
there's
physical
definitely a
duress
dominance hierarchy.
yeah, but physical duress that's shared leads to a bonding procedure, and for people that are still wondering what it's all about, it kind of provides maybe like a bit of a search for that. And so,
Yeah.
like I said, it's multi-purpose. It creates a group of you know brothers, I guess. Test your physical limits, test your mental limits, and you're maybe existentialism type of thing.
Absolutely. And like towards the end of our ruck, I mean, I was kind of saying this, and I've said it before on the show, but it's the whole thing like, like misery shared is misery lessened kind of a thing, right? Like, so like if you go through some garbage stuff and you do it alone, it sucks. But when you do it with some other people, all of a sudden that burden becomes less, even though it still sucked just as bad, but because you're sharing it together, right? You've embraced that suck and you've done it. But then sort of when you have a euphoric moment and you share that with people, it's not lessened, it's actually exaggerated, right? So it kind of plays into that whole thing. So like all of these people around you watching this, epic fight between two beefy dudes, like they're getting all of that feeling going around, right?
So you're saying we'll have twice as many blisters, but they won't be half so bad?
Exactly. Because it's going to be uphill both ways,
God damn.
but also downhill both ways.
Well, let me go back really early in the book here, page 40. Maybe self-improvement isn't the answer. Tyler never knew his father. Maybe self-destruction is the answer. Tyler and I still go to Fight Club together. Fight Club is in the basement of a bar now. After the bar closes on Saturday night, and every week you go there and there's more guys there. Tyler gets under the one light in the middle of the black concrete basement, and he can see the light flickering back and forth out of the dark in 100 pairs of eyes. First thing Tyler yells is the first rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club, Tyler yells, is you don't talk about Fight Club. And he goes on to talk about his dad for a little bit. There are 6 more rules. I'll just read them out rather than reading through the life story of how this guy did or didn't know his father. When someone says stop or taps out or goes limp, the fight is over. Only 2 guys fight at a time. 1 fight at a time. They fight without shirts or shoes. The fights go on as long as they have to. If this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight. And later in the book, they add 2 additional rules.
I mean, that was more or less the guy code for like being a guy and getting involved in an altercation with another guy over whatever stupid thing that it was that like there's no weapons, it's not like a 2-on-1, it's just like you talked to my girl when you shouldn't have, or you smudged my Pumas, let's go outside and have fisticuffs. And like you would punch the guy in and about the face until the guy didn't stand up anymore. Like you wouldn't kick him on the ground and keep beating the crap out of him until he was dead or unconscious. It was like, if you stay down, I'm going to stop hitting you. But I mean, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, well, how to phrase this in a good way, I'm not sure. But I think this is one of the problems with society as a whole is like people are no longer afraid of getting punched in the mouth for acting stupid.
Yeah, because
No,
they've
I'm not
never
saying you
been
should,
punched in the mouth.
Commit to fisticuffs because somebody stepped on your Pumas. That's a dumb reason to have a fight. But I think a lot of people would talk a lot less shit if they were afraid of physical consequences for doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
and by the same token, the media is trying to say that pulling a knife during a fisticuffs is normal.
Well, I mean,
it depends on the neighborhood, the demographic, maybe.
Who hasn't been involved in a knife fight in their youth? I mean, I get not being punched in the face, but like not being in a knife fight, come on.
I mean, somehow I've managed to avoid it. I guess I'm weird that way, but
yeah, I mean, I've been punched in the face once or twice, never because of something I've done, or at least not anything that I've done that I shouldn't have done. It's usually the other person being stupid, but like I've been punched in the face. I know how much it sucks. I don't look forward to it happening again, but also because I've had it happen, I realize it's a consequence that might happen even when it shouldn't happen, and therefore I conduct myself accordingly.
I think we would be better off as a society if people had physical consequences for their actions. I'm not saying we have to go around like picking fights with one another, but if
but sometimes
violence
isn't the answer until it's the only answer, right? So like sometimes like you get to a point where you're like, I have asked you politely X number of times to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing, especially if you are physically contacting me, maybe not necessarily in a super violent way, but like I'm trying to get by you and you're not letting me pass. I've asked you a bunch of times, I've slightly nudged you or whatever, and now you're there, like still up in my face. Yeah. Now it's time to get physical, bro. I'm going to pop you in the mouth.
There's an escalation of force, I think. That seems...
Yeah, but there's eventually a point where you've got to do it.
Again, not like... I feel like all we do on book club night is compare other authors to our favorite gay Nazi, but like violence is the golden standard.
Exactly, and people have forgotten that.
Historically, it is. Absolutely.
It still is, because the government uses it. They wave that stick at you and go, you better not gather in groups of more than 5 people, or,
Or we'll fine you, and if you don't pay the fine, we'll put you in cages, and if you don't go in the cage, we'll beat you until you do.
Stand up at a bar without a mask on, or like...
It's the threat of implied violence. Generally they don't go to fisticuffs right off the bat, right?
No, but that's because I think most people are afraid of actual confrontation.
Because they've never been punched in the face.
Because, exactly, not enough people have been punched in the face. This is...
Yeah.
I don't think that was what Chuck was getting at with his book, but this is what I'm taking from it.
But I think there's, some, sometimes people write things and they maybe don't realize what they're writing at the time, but it's the and not to sound like artsy and fartsy and all weird like that, but there's something in the ether, right? Like that, like just flows through you when you're writing because you have these experiences in your life and knowledge that you don't really realize that you're talking about at the time. But after the fact, you're like, shit, yeah, that was fucking brilliant. Not that I have those brilliant moments too often, but like,
They happen. Well,
yeah,
let me get a couple of more quotes out of my system here because it was really hard to get good passages to read out of this book because the narrator jumps around so damn much.
yeah,
So like even reading the Seven Rules of Fight Club is like a 3-page experience because I have to read about his daddy issues.
yeah.
But let me read another section. They're talking with the mechanic. If you're male and you're Christian and living in America, your father is your model for God. And if you never know your father, if your father bails or dies or is never home, what do you believe about God? How Tyler saw it was that getting God's attention for being bad was better than getting no attention at all. Maybe because God's hate is better than his indifference. If you could either be God's worst enemy or nothing, which would you choose? We are God's middle children, according to Tyler Durden, with no special place in history and no special attention. Unless we get God's attention, we have no hope of damnation or redemption. Which is worse, hell or nothing? Only if we're caught and punished can we be saved. Burn the Louvre, the mechanic said, and wipe your ass with the Mona Lisa. This way, at least, God will know our names. The Mona Lisa actually comes up like 3 times in this book. So do the daddy issues. They come up a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. And like, that's a thing that like kids do, right? Like, if their parents don't give them any sort of positive attention, they will act up so that they get the negative attention because they need attention, even if it's
Attention.
negative.
Some kind is better than no kind.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even Peterson talked to pull another author that we've done for book club. He talked about that in the 12 Rules of Life. Like sometimes you need to give kids rules because they crave that structure. And if like one person doesn't do it, they're going to keep acting up until you give them rules and possibly punch them in the face. Usually when they're much older and don't listen.
I
Yeah.
generally wait till they're at least 2.
Yeah.
Another 2. That's
Yeah.
good rule of thumb.
Yeah. Should have been rule of wrist though, right? Like you can't really do a whole lot with.
Let me read. I think this is probably the last piece that I have a quote. Oh, somebody put something into the show notes. It's a different Mona Lisa quote. I wanted the one I just read, but this is from a much earlier part in the book. Nothing is static. Even the Mona Lisa is falling apart. That's what I meant, like the Mona Lisa thing being referenced multiple times in the book. I think there's one more place where it comes up. But I've got one more here that's related to the quote that I was really hoping would be the quote from the film that isn't.
But almost.
You have a class of young, strong men and women. They want to give their lives to something. Advertising has given these. I'm sorry. Try that again. Advertising has these people chasing cars and clothes they don't need. Generations have been working jobs they hate just so they can buy what they don't really need. We don't have a great war in our generation or a great depression, but we do. We have a great war of the spirit. We have a great revolution against the culture. The Great Depression is our lives. We have a spiritual depression. We have to show these men and women freedom by enslaving them and show them courage by frightening them. Napoleon bragged that he could train men to sacrifice their lives for a scrap of ribbon. Imagine when we call a strike and everyone refuses to work until we redistribute the wealth of the world. Imagine hunting elk through the damp canyon forests around the ruins of Rockefeller Center. It's as close to the quote that I wanted from the movie as I could find in the book.
He's definitely channeling some Uncle Ted there with that.
It does seem a little bit like, yeah,
Deconstruction of
capitalism
society.
bad,
Yeah.
destroy
Yeah.
the technology, return to the nature. And I mean, like
Yeah.
in a very plain way, in like hunting elk in downtown New York, or I don't know where exactly Rockefeller Center is. I'm not a New York
It's
person,
New
but
York. Yeah, I've been.
I know it's in New York. I just don't know
terrible.
which
It's terrible.
borough.
Yeah, it's terrible. They're all terrible.
Yeah, well, I assume New York is just like Toronto, but like infinity times worse.
Yeah, there's like 5 boroughs, so it's 5 times as worse.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But I think there's I don't know. There's a couple of things to take from the book, and I don't know that Chuck was trying to get at them, but
Yeah.
the lack of clear male role models and father figures,
Yeah.
the consumer culture, throwaway culture, both of relationships
Well,
and
and
of
you,
products.
I mean, you look at like, so, his alter ego, his safety character, if you will, right? That allows him to be his, maybe his true self, if you
True
will,
self, sure.
still has a shitty relationship with their father, right? Like, it's like, if you're going to create an alter ego, maybe you create one that had a better upbringing than you did. But
Except
nah.
for he's using Tyler as a like a pseudo father.
Well, and that's
Well,
the weird, like, yeah.
Tyler fills a lot of roles. Like there's the pseudo father, there's the pseudo self reflection, there's maybe the true self reflection. Fills a lot of roles. The lack of organized religion, or I mean maybe the disdain for organized religion is in there,
Well,
but there's also like the
there's a,
tripartite reflection of like Christianity, the Father, the Son, the Spirit.
yeah, but there's definitely a lack of believing in something bigger than yourself, whatever that something is. And that's
Even if that
why,
something is blowing up buildings indiscriminately because Tyler says so.
yeah,
Believe in something, even if it means blowing everything up.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's a Ted Kaczynski quote right there.
Well, uh, probably gonna get sued by Nike because like that was their thing, right? Believe in something, even if it means doing some other thing.
Yeah.
I think that's where that came from. I don't really have anything else other than like parting shots at the book. I have no more quotes that are worth reading. It's not a long read. You can get through it pretty quick. I think I did it in like 2 days, maybe three.
Yeah, I was the same. Like it's very simple. Like it's not a complicated read at all. You could get through it stupid
It's a
fast.
very compelling read. I'll give him that. Like
Well, because
it's engaging.
I think because you're waiting for something to like
Give.
happen, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
just to, like, you're like, I want to keep reading because I want this to like climax to something. And I guess it does when they like do the whole
Kind of
Project
does.
Mayhem thing and like burn the city down and all, but then like, and I know like, like the vast majority of stories follow like the traditional story path thing and have since the beginning of time when people started writing stories, because that's just what we do. But like in the downswing, like there's the, the build up and the love interest and all of that, and then you hit the climax, and then there's like the wrap up, which is like you kind of like wind it down. Except that the wind down in this book is a letdown.
Well, and I
Yeah.
It
think it's
doesn't really.
well. The thing is, the book is more mainstream of an ending, right? So he gets basically caught, sent to a loony bin, and some of his disciples, like you said, are
Yeah.
still milling around him and helping him out while he's in the loony bin. Um, I was actually kind of worried though when they made the movie ending, and all of a sudden, they're holding hands. He's cured himself by blowing his cheek off, um, and or whatever. He's put a bullet through his face anyway, and
Yeah.
he's somehow cured himself by doing that. And then they're holding hands as all the buildings come down, and I was deathly worried they're actually setting it up for a sequel because I was like, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. But
Well, yeah, but I mean, I liked how the movie kind of just ended at that point in time, because you didn't know what happened after, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, he cured himself by like faux committing suicide, right? Like, I guess he was just really bad at it. So like at this point in the book and the movie, he's realized that he is himself and Tyler, and is threatening to kill Tyler, and then like, yeah, sticks a gun in his mouth, pulls the trigger, and like blows half of his face off, but not any of the important parts, I guess. So like, that kills Tyler. He gets the girl that he's been banging and he loves, even though he didn't want to admit it earlier. And there's this like brave new world where there's no credit card companies or banks or whatever it is, and it's just like, and then it ends right there, and you're like, it's kind of an ambiguous ending, but it's an interesting ending, right? Like it leaves you wanting more, which is how you could kind of end things. Like it kind of wraps things up a little bit, but still wants you like, I could see this guy going on and living a good life from here on out, right? Like his boring,
He's
mundane
sorted
life.
out his demons and
Yeah,
got the girl and
yeah.
blew up the
His
credit card company.
yeah, his boring job and all that is gone, and now he is on to like greener, although
His
maybe
hope.
more desolate pastures. It's it's looking up for him, right? Like personally, maybe not for like the rest of the world, but for him personally, things are looking up for once in his life. But yeah, the book and the way that it goes into him just kind of like living on in, a loony bin, like in his own head, it's just like, how do you end it like this? I did not like the ending at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like the last two chapters.
He's going for plausible yet a big letdown.
Yeah, but like he suspended reality for so many other things, and this is like, why bring it in at the
Why
last
now?
moment? Yeah, like
Yeah.
just keep on that train, and like so many other things you could have been like, no, 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 you can't just drill a few holes in a barrel and make that a suppressor. But like, no, we're gonna suspend reality on that and potentially on a bunch of other stuff. And like somehow there's like this house that like we can get for like almost no money and have like 100 people there making soap and standing on the front porch and all of this
Well,
other stuff. And no one's gonna notice that, and nobody's gonna call the cops or do any of these things. And somehow some guy on like no sleep at all can do his day job, his night job of being a projectionist, and basically form a militia.
okay, but did any of those things actually happen, or are they as real as Tyler is?
Yeah. So I wonder about, other than bitch tits Bob, I mean, how many people were actually real?
Well, I mean, the whole thing could have taken place in his head, and he could have just been in the
Right.
loony bin for the whole
The
time. But
whole
like,
time.
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I think that there is a level of ambiguity, and this is sort of my generalized complaint about the novel as a whole is, what is it actually about? Because it kind of reads like a Seinfeld episode. It's sort of about nothing.
yeah.
It's just like, which nothing is it particularly about? Is it about nihilism? Is it about existentialism? Or is it literally just a book about nothing?
I squeaked out a search for higher meaning out of it, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But I remain
Nihilists don't
unconvinced
believe in
that
anything, man.
That's right, Lebowski. Nothing. But maybe that's what it's about, because okay, maybe he doesn't actually believe about in anything. Maybe Tyler doesn't believe in anything. I mean, he kind of doesn't. He wants to like bring down capitalism and is maybe resentful about a father figure or lack thereof. Or maybe the narrator has those problems, or maybe it's all
Yeah,
other people's fault. Maybe everything is because of the cornflower blue tie that his boss wears. Maybe it's all his boss's fault.
yeah. There's no clear message, and that's the problem, right? Like, it just like, what was the point of all this? And if the point was that there's no point,
Well,
at least be
that's the
clear
part
of
that,
that,
like,
right? Like,
maybe that's why I feel like it's a Seinfeld episode, because like the point was there was no point. Maybe that's the whole point. Like maybe that's the like life is meaningless. Like there is no point. I
yeah,
don't
but at
know what
least in
the author is
Seinfeld it was
actually trying.
funny. Whereas this is
Well,
just like he goes through all of this, you know
not
what I
be
mean?
too generous with that.
No, but like it was comical at times. Whereas this is just like, why? Why did I why like no
Yeah.
no laughing, no like it's just like you're reading it because you want to get to something good where it all makes sense. And you get to the end and you're like, the fuck was this?
Well, that unfortunately is how I basically spent the last two chapters going, what the fuck?
Like, cause I
Come
love
on.
like
What the fuck?
I
Come
have
on.
I have watched many a terrible B movie, especially like at 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep because there's always usually something that will redeem the B movie in the end. Maybe not to the point where it's not a B movie anymore, but you're like, okay, this is worth wasting an hour and a half of my time, and now there's something funny or whatever. But like, I didn't get that with this book. There's nothing that
Well,
like
that's
made it worthwhile other than that like now I can say that I've read it and talk to like pseudo intellectuals that love the book and be like,
let's not get carried away.
this is bullshit. Chuck
Well, that's
Palahniuk
kind
is
of
an
my
idiot, and
takeaway. Is it's bullshit.
I don't know
And
why he's
honestly,
such a good author. Maybe
I
his
don't
other
think
books are
he-
great.
yeah,
But
are they
I don't know. I haven't read any of them. This is the
right? And
book of his
this is
I've
kind of
read.
my again like generalized complaint. Reading reviews of this book on like Amazon or book review websites like Goodreads, like
You know, it's good when it's called
people
Goodreads.
have two opinions of this book. People either think this book is a brilliant masterpiece that you're too dumb to comprehend, or people hate this book because it's not about anything. And that makes me think that the people that really like it because it's such an intellectual masturbatory exercise don't know it any better than I do. They just think they're smarter than the rest of us.
Hobos.
Well, and
Well, yeah.
I wonder if that's not what it is, though, is like, well, this is supposed to be a really good book. It's won a bunch of awards. It's received critical acclaim. They turned it into a film. Therefore, it's really good.
And whether I liked it or didn't like it or understood it or didn't, I'm going to say that I did.
Right, because then I'm part of that class of people where I get the intellectual book and I'm a very intelligent person and you should respect my opinions about things because I agree with the critical experts and this is good.
Which is
Yeah.
exactly the type of person he wanted to bring down in the book.
Yeah. That's the irony right there. But for those of you that are smarter than us, please send feedback. I know I said we're not going to talk about it, but tell us where we're wrong. I'd love to know. Like, am I missing something? Like, is there something in there that's just
Chris on YouTube brings up a good point. If it's about nothing, his question, why did we pick it for book club? Well, I picked it from book club because it's a movie that I've seen that we've all enjoyed, and it's supposed to be a well-regarded book because it's won a bunch of awards. And I was kind of hoping that it would be like a pre-2000 red pill on like being a better person, well, being a better man specifically, but it kind of turned out to be a intellectual masturbation.
Burger? Yeah. Not even a good kind.
Like, I don't want to be a better
ending. Yeah.
I don't want to be a better communist, but we're still going to read that book next month, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We are going to read Saul Alinsky's Rules to Radicals because it's important to know your enemy.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess maybe
the
premise for book club isn't necessarily to have you read enjoyable books or good books. It's to broaden your horizons and come to your own conclusions. Not necessarily the same ones that we have about the book. If you like Fight Club, like I said, please tell me what it is that you liked about it and what I'm missing about it, because I would love to understand it from your perspective.
Yeah, book club exists for like two reasons. The first of which we can't talk about, but the second of which is because, well, no, that's not even a very funny joke. I just don't want to talk about the news all the time. I don't want to just do current events all the time. We want to like do some other stuff, and it's evergreen content because Fight Club hasn't changed in 30 years. So,
but also there's some other reasons we can't talk about that are unrelated to Fight Club, but might be related to Fight Club.
Yeah, you can
ready,
go and
stand by.
So we're right. We're okay. Just tell them we're starting our own soap company. It's the Patriot Soap Company.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, everyone's doing the coffee thing. We're doing the soap thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, book club is to make you a better person. You should read books. Reading is important. Too many people
whether you
spend
like
their
them
lives...
or not, read them.
Yeah, well, part of this is like, again, my discontent regarding consumer culture, which this book does tie into.
Yeah.
Stop just consuming media. And I mean, like, people
not this show.
Are listening to a podcast. I get it. Like, there's like a self-referential thing here that's going on that, Tyler and I are going to have a conversation about later. But a lot of people mindlessly consume media without critically thinking about it. And that's very hard to do with a book because when you read a book, you have to I don't know what the right word is. Like, you don't internalize the book, but you have to take everything the author is saying and then use your own experiences and imagination to try to understand what the author has written.
And
Right?
that's why
You said-
different people get different things out of books, because my life experience is different than yours. Now, when three people would, I wouldn't say vastly different, but different backgrounds and lifestyles and all that, all read the same book and go, this is a piece of shit, I'm inclined to believe that it's a piece of shit. But we all came to that conclusion independently.
Again, I don't
that's
think
what's
it's
important.
a bad book. I just don't think it's it doesn't live up to the hype.
Yes. Yeah, I've definitely read worse. And I'm going to warn all of you, next month's book is worse for different reasons. It's going to anger you, but you should still read it anyways. Because knowing the playbook is important.
Well,
as is reading
and
comprehension, which is what Andrew was just getting at. I mean, a lot of people aren't taught proper reading comprehension or critical thinking or discourse based on what you've read or anything else to debate stuff. It's a skill that's being lost in society because A, nobody's afraid of getting punched in the mouth, but B, as soon as somebody disagrees with you, they're literally worse than Hitler, and then you just unfriend them instead of actually talking things out. And I think this is one of the benefits of book club is the fact that, we don't always have to agree either, and we can explain why.
Right, and I think this is skills that are being lost, and people are consuming content in an uncritical way, and that's very hard to do with a book. It's very hard to read a book uncritically. I don't know if that's like, maybe I'm not putting that the right way around, but like, it's very easy to passively watch a television show and enjoy it or not, but not really be.
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. Like
it.
you're watching TV, but you're fucking around on your phone or doing a bunch of other stuff. So you're passively watching and listening, right? But
it's very hard to do that with a book.
Yeah.
Because if you are passively consuming a book, you're not plotting the thread of the book in your own mind. So you're not really following along, and you're going to get to the end and it's not going to make sense because it was a bad book or it was poorly written or it was not well explained. It was because you just weren't paying attention.
Yeah. And as somebody that does audiobooks, because for me, that's easier, I could sometimes fall into that trap because like I do it on my drive to and from work and everything. But I still think that like you still have to pay attention. And if I find myself not paying attention, and you need to, again, it's about being critical and figuring yourself out and being critical of your own reading and listening abilities, I go back and be like, okay. And there's certain books like Left of Bang that I was like, okay, I need to physically read this book when we got to certain parts of it, because that's the only way that my brain is going to interpret this properly. Because for the most part, like I am a visual learner, not an auditory one. So like when it started to get into the more specific things, I was like, I need to read this to really. So you have to do that yourself. So one way or another, you still have to be critical and analyze the thing that you're trying to understand and yourself.
Well, I think the squirrel moments come fast and furious when you're listening to an audiobook versus when you're actually reading. As soon as you avert your eyes from the book, the TV gets turned off, right? So like you basically have to.
It becomes that much easier to focus on the book when you're not doing it that way, because you're like, this is my world right now, right? Like I can't look at my phone and the book at the same time unless I'm reading the book on my phone, which I've also done. But yeah, you have to be a better person. That's what this is all about, anyways. Just be a better person.
It is about being a better person. I don't want to make it seem like super like metaphysical, but you have to be present when you read a book, even if you're
media,
listening
but not
to the audiobook.
media.
Yeah,
and
but
consume it with a purpose.
Reading is good for you. I don't know the study off the top of my head, but I have read studies that say that if you read, that you have better cognitive capacity longer as an adult. And most people have an underdeveloped sense of reading anyway. I think like the average North American adult reads at like an 8th grade level or something, or a 4th grade level. What do they rate the New York Times to? It's like an elementary level of reading. So most people lack the ability to critically consume information.
Yeah, whatever you're reading, read it with a purpose and be critical about the thing that you're reading and how you're consuming it.
Which I think is a big reason why we do this. I mean, it does make for evergreen content because anybody can listen to a book club.
But that's like a
podcast.
Tertiary benefit.
I mean, as a podcast producer, though, I mean, it is beneficial to us because it's always, and it's a very innocuous way to give somebody an introduction to us, to Canadian Patriot Podcast, because you can give this to someone, and we're not really talking politics or doing current events reviews with a political lens like we normally do. I mean,
but it's applied to that.
We've still
Like,
talked a little bit around some of those things like lockdowns and the government misuse of force and
You did get to
how
mention
the
commies at
only
least once.
yeah,
yeah, I mean
but that like when you apply it to literature like this and things like that, I mean that in and of itself is evergreen content because it's not like that's changed. We've been banging our heads against a wall for centuries, expecting different results. It makes it we're not talking about COVID every week
every
for the last
minute.
50
I made the
weeks.
mistake of being in a room today with a television that was on an always on Canadian news channel. I don't remember specifically which one it was, CP24 maybe. But in the like 45 minutes that it was on, it was like COVID comparison and contrast with like Australia and New Zealand, the weather, vaccinations, the traffic, people standing in line to get vaccinations, some other like current event thing, and then like more COVID news. So like out of the 45 minutes, including 2 commercial breaks, it was almost all COVID content.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But,
well,
like
no wonder everyone is terrified of this thing because this is like, if this is what's going on with all of the media all of the time that everyone is seeing that I am not privy to because I don't, not that I don't watch television, but we don't have cable or satellite TV or anything like that. So I'm very selective about what we
you get to watch what
put
you
the
want to
effort
watch
into
when you
watching.
watch it without the
No, but
added
even that,
yeah.
I don't want to watch most television because it's so terrible. And the same thing, like when I
Yeah,
used to travel for work,
it's too
everywhere you
woke.
go in America is CNN or Fox
Yeah.
News on every TV
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Every airport bar, every hotel lobby, it's always 24-hour news nonsense. And it's just it very much wore me out.
Yeah. It's way too many talking heads, despite the fact that here we are being talking heads on the internet right now. But hopefully we're at
I know.
least
Do as
like
we say, not as we do.
yeah, but at least we're critical of ourselves. We understand the irony in what we do when what we're saying is the complete opposite. But we're encouraging you to be better people.
We're
Read.
trying. And we're
Just
trying to be
read.
better people.
Yeah. I mean, I used to read a lot when I was younger, and then like I just like all things, like you say that you don't have time, and so like for a long period of time, I did not read anything. But in the last 2 years, I've been making a dedicated effort, and even before we started doing this, and this just helps because it gives me at least once a month the reason to do it and read a book. But just I feel better having read something, right? It's that whole like make your bed thing where you're like, I've accomplished something. It's something stupid and minor and really doesn't make a difference, but I've ticked a box and I've
And
done
I'm
something.
the same way I do like the little gold star on the checklist. I'm a big fan of
I've
the
done
like
something, right?
the
I've
trivial
accomplished something.
checkbox.
And
Yeah.
especially when it's one of those books that like this one was like, I was excited to read this, and then I got into it and I was like, ugh, but I still did it. Much like about 3/4 into that ruck march on Sunday, I was like, man, this is sucking. My foot is killing me.
Yeah, about kilometer 20, I was like, well, this was a dumb idea. I
Yeah.
have regrets.
But two
I'm going to
years
get
from
a
now, over
tattoo.
beers, you're gonna be like having a good laugh about it.
Oh,
Oh no,
exactly.
the next
Even
day over
even
beers
dur-
were already like
even like yeah, immediately after over alcohol, or like even still in it. Like I'm not even done yet, and it's me and two other people like bringing up the rear, and I'm like, all right, guys, like 1 kilometer left to go, like 500 meters left to go. Like let's do this, right?
And
Like,
at that point, there's no quitting either, right?
well, exactly, right? But it's encouraging everyone else to do it and just doing it because yeah, you've come this far, and I'm like, I'm not going to start a book and not finish it. And I try to get, two books a month in to kind of meet my like minimum goal now. And I am already like halfway through book 13 for this year. So like I'm ahead of my goal. But I'm not gonna hit the goal and go like, yeah, I'm gonna stop for the last 3 months. No, I'm gonna crush that goal. I'm gonna keep going and keep reading because like I feel better. Because like
well, and
I'm
part of it, I think
exercising my brain, I'm
the
understanding things
exercise
better.
piece, that is, I'm so glad you touched on that because that's we have both you and I, Gavin, I think, have gotten better at because Gavin and I spend a lot of like in-person FaceTime together, and we
We're
have
slowly
both been.
becoming the same person.
I mean, yes, but
We're not sure who's Tyler Durden and
we were
who's Jack or Joe, but we're one person. Yeah.
we were very lazy years ago, and we are
Yeah.
much less lazy now. And I wouldn't go so far as to say either of us enjoy exercise,
I fucking hate it. I
but
hate
we're
it.
getting way better at it, and we do it consistently and almost daily.
Yeah.
And
I do not like it at
reading
all.
is
I
sort of
do
the
it
same
because I
idea.
like
Where
the results of it.
the results. Reading is I think very much in the same vein. It's not necessarily a thing that we do because we enjoy it. It's a thing that we do because it makes us better, more well-rounded, more complete individuals. Much the same way that we're like trying to work out more, we're trying to become, I hesitate
Yeah.
to say smarter, but more well-read.
Yeah. Eat better, become in better physical shape, become in better mental shape.
Well, and it's the same,
Right.
it's the same type of idea. I mean, you lift weights to get stronger, you read books to flex the brain muscle, right?
Also, to break out of that echo chamber that social media and digital media forces you kind of into via algorithms and personal choices, I suppose. But
Well,
Absolutely.
I don't know.
yeah,
I still really much like my Amazon recommended book list and a
well,
couple of
that's
other
true. But
places.
same token, though, I don't
Yeah.
think you would have naturally chosen the next book club unless it was
You know
like
what though?
unless it was
This
some
is
It
sort
one
of
wouldn't be
one
have been
that's like-
recommended to us, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Rules for Radical, and I guess that's a good point. We should talk about the May and June books, and I want to just quickly go back to something Gavin mentioned a minute ago. He's at his 2 books, or he's ahead of his 2 books a month goal, and I am currently on book number 8 of my books this year, which is also putting me at 2 books a month, which is not something that I had set out to do, but has apparently worked out that way because that's what I do
You
in my
are the same
downtime now.
person, yeah.
Yeah, we're slowly becoming the same person. So, what are we going to do with our spouses?
It's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, I guess. I
This
don't
is
know.
the worst thouple ever.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be a quadruple?
No, we're the same person.
Oh, I guess yeah, then yeah. Well, whatever. Same
Sorry,
difference.
ladies.
Yeah. Stuck with both of us apparently.
So May, Rules for Radical, Saul Alinsky. That's going to be awful.
Oh, it's terrible.
To
It's gonna
offset that,
anger
I'm
you.
probably going to read 48 Rules of Power, 48 Laws of Power.
But there is also a rules for radical debunked or defeated or something like that. You could also you could do a
Yeah, it's called having common sense.
well that. But there's actually a publication that basically debunks it. So
We may have to follow it up with that one. I
We need
didn't
to
know
follow
that.
up, yeah.
I mean, I debunked it basically by reading it and going.
fuck commies.
That's dumb.
But the problem is though, and like I don't want to like get too into it, but
There's not enough helicopters.
They've
I mean,
been successful.
yes. For anybody that is not part of pushing the agenda, they literally published this like forever ago and told you what they're going to do, and now they're doing it, and you're shocked that they're doing it.
I don't even know that most people are shocked.
Mein Kampf
but
was
that's-
published long before the invasion of Russia, but hey,
Yeah.
and he did mention he wanted to expand eastward, so
Who goes to war with Russia in the winter? This is a proven strategy for failure.
Yeah,
Well, clearly Napoleon, I guess, was not enough of a lesson. So
yeah. If that short guy didn't know anything, then
I don't know.
Like,
Same token, look at the Klaus Schwab's The Great Reset, right? He publishes his book, and then everybody's like, "Wow, that's so weird." Who would've
yeah, but when
thought?
you put the last name Freeland on it, it sells better.
Yeah,
True. To
Yeah,
address the
you're not gonna
Alberta-
you're not gonna like Solinsky.
to address the Albertan on YouTube, he says, "Not gonna lie, I haven't been following book club much because I tend to read more how-to and technical books than fiction, and we do alternate. We try to do
Yeah.
a fiction book and then like a non-fiction is not maybe the best word for it, but more of a philosophical type book.
Yeah, I mean,
Something
sometimes
less
it's
fiction.
sometimes it's like Left of Bang. I would call like a soft skills book. There's like a skill book, right? Like reading people in their things. Solinsky, I wouldn't call that. I mean, it's a philosophical book. But we try to mix it up a little.
Yeah,
Suggest some stuff.
we have been trying to alternate between actual fiction and a significant amount of science fiction, but actual fiction and more
Other,
skills
other, yeah,
philosophical type. Yeah, it's
yeah.
not really how to's per se. It's not like the SAS survival handbook,
Or
but
the
that does
anarchist
segue
cookbook,
nicely
or-
into June. The June book is the homoerotic bestseller called A Handful of Hard Men.
Yes.
It not really. It's just it it's not a great title in today's climate culture.
No, I
A
would say
handful
that
of
in
hard
today's climate, it is a brilliant title.
well, yes, but it's probably not
Not
if
for
you
our
if,
listeners, maybe.
if you're flying the rainbow flag and buying a handful of hard men, it's probably not what you bargained for.
Yeah, it's
But
counterintuitive for whatever group you're part of. Yeah.
Hans Wessel's A Handful of Hard Men, the SAS and the Battle for Rhodesia, is mostly a biography of Darrell Watt, who was a SAS officer in Rhodesia during the Bush War. So that'll be the June book, which will be, I'm going to go ahead and just say phenomenal. It's probably the best book that I've read in
Yeah.
ages.
I'm about halfway through it now. Maybe a little bit
It's
further.
not a very well written book, but the story is amazing.
The title is absolutely accurate. Like, even the guys that these guys make fun of for being like lesser men are still way, and to use their word, harder than anyone I know.
Yeah, I don't know how Darrell Watt got dressed in the morning because how did his balls fit in his Rhodesian short shorts?
Yeah, like not possible.
Well, it's like the same thing as Bravo 20. Like when they talk about some of these true war stories, it's you're sitting
That's
there like
Andy McNabb's book, right?
that is correct,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're
We
just
should
like
do that. We should put that on the list. That's a good book.
Well, and like,
I don't
so
want to read the part about where he's in prison again, but it was a good book.
yeah,
like I did recently Relentless Strike, which basically covers like the whole creation of like JSOC and all of the like the current US Special Operations Command and all of that whole like combining Delta with SEAL Team 6 and all like and rolling that all and like that was a cool story and hearing about all of the things that they went and did and like those guys are like hard as nails. Nothing compared to Darrell Watt. Like that dude, like those stories, it's like, yeah, we're gonna have you go on a like a month long ruck into the jungle with nothing but the stuff in your backpack, and you're gonna have to go fuck up some commies along the way. Maybe potentially wait 3 or 4 days to ambush some of them, and we may or may not airdrop in supplies, and we may or may not tell you that your airdrop is coming 6 days late on the last day of your rations. So good luck. Yes, nobody likes you. Nobody else is supporting you. Carry on. Pip pip and all that stiff upper lip because you're still British even though they hate you.
Yeah, Handful of Hard Men, really, really great book about the Bush War.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And I love the way they get into it and start talking about like the whole this wasn't a racial thing, despite what the media at the time and still kind of tries to tell you like about it. Like
I really want to talk at length about what Watt had to say and what happened with the Bush War, and I am not well read historically enough to be by any means qualified to talk about it, but I can talk about what we read in the book.
yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be another long one. So
Yeah.
get your short shorts and your floppy hat out because we'll be
Get comfy,
there for a while.
Yeah.
Make sure you have adequate water rations.
Yeah. And beer and rum rations too, if you've just been resupplied. Yeah. Possibly some landmines on you as well.
Can't go wrong with claymores.
Uh,
Obviously, if you're going to do book club, we appreciate if you're going to use the Amazon affiliate links if you buy the books or anything else after clicking the link, we get a commission. If you want to get the official Big Luau shirt, because the weather is getting nice, also Amazon affiliate link for that.
Yep.
Get yourself the authentic 100% polyester Hawaiian luau shirt with real coconut buttons.
Yeah, be sure to get yourself some tiki torches as well once you do that, for whatever luau's you may be having in your future, if and when we're allowed in Ontario.
As long as the torches don't get too close to the shirt.
Yeah.
That's
don't
right.
do that.
It is
Yeah, do not do that.
Flame safe at all.
No, not even close to flame safe.
So if you are shopping on Amazon, use the affiliate link. That would help us out greatly. I appreciate it. Oh, Discord. We didn't talk about that. Discord is getting a little bit more popular. We keep having more people join, which is great. I am still bad at using it. Not that I don't. I shouldn't say that. I'm not good at using Discord because I haven't tried to set anything up, and I mostly rely on younger Andrew for all of this stuff.
Yeah, we're old.
Well, it's not even. I don't have the time or inclination.
Yeah, but we're there occasionally. Other people there frequently.
I'm there a bit.
It's reasonably active, and I appreciate everybody being on. And well, for example, like the Veristoleka thing, if you were in the area and you were on the Discord, we told you where and when to be and how to get in touch with us to sort it out, to have a socially distanced, appropriate, not gathering.
Yeah. Stay tuned though, because we plan to do this again, but under the Ragnarok brand.
See, this is a teaser.
Yeah.
We'll go around. Ian, where can
shorts for everybody?
Oh boy. Ian, where can everybody find you?
You can reach me on email at theislandretreat@gmail.com and listen to me pontificate about prepping stuff Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube under Canadian Prepper Podcast.
Gavin, where can everybody find you?
Occasionally on the Discord, but more frequently on the IGs, Urbex GTA, all one word. Hopefully in person at some point whenever the overlords of Ontario decide that we're allowed to do some stuff again in person.
Doing stuff in person would be the coolest way to do stuff.
Yeah.
If you need some tactical accessories or first aid supplies, check out my little company, RagnarokTactical.ca. Use discount code Patriot at checkout, save yourself some money. And if you want to send us feedback, like what we didn't understand about Fight Club and why it is actually the best novel ever written, which I will argue with you about, send us your feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Let us know what you think. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. Rod did not do the homework. He didn't read the book. He's still asking me who Tyler is and how to get a hold of him. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.